Hey everyone, we are live today on YouTube, and I thought I would do a makeup demonstration today. This is Technicolor Mike B, and you might know, if you've been following me on Instagram, I've been doing a face paint design every day since the stay-at-home order began in Virginia back in the middle of March. My goal at the beginning of the year was to try to do more makeup tutorials, demonstrations, but I haven't done too many yet, so I thought today's design was going to be a good design to do. I was hoping I'd get a video camera set up in the bathroom where I normally do the makeup, so I wouldn't have to get my computer room all messy, but that's where I'm at today, in the computer room. So try to be careful. This is the concept sketch for today's design. It's based on an orc character from the World of Warcraft and some of their movies, video games. It's one of the monster faces. I like to do the monsters with the big teeth. If I was doing this as a cosplay design for a convention, I'm not sure if I would do the teeth painted on, or if I would do it as a prosthetic that I could just sort of pop in my mouth when I'm doing pictures. I haven't been real successful with the monster teeth. That they just feel too bulky in my mouth, and then I can't close my mouth and start drooling. So sometimes painting them on is just easier. So that is the ultimate design, the concept for today: a green monster with some big tusk, fierce looking, some bushy eyebrows. So I might refer to it from time to time. And we are using theatrical grease paint. All of my makeup products today are Mehron. No, I'm not sponsored by them. That's just the brand I happen to use. And if you know anything about grease paint, you more or less have one shade of color available. There's a green, there's a blue, there's a yellow, and if you don't like that shade of green, blue, or yellow, tough, those are the colors they make. So when I want to do a shade of green that's not this shade of green, I want something lighter or darker, the main option available to me is to mix colors. With green, I can make it lighter by mixing in white. I can make it lighter by mixing in yellow. I can make it darker sometimes by mixing in brown or blue. Maybe a touch of black. Sometimes you could get a little gray or something. It's really hard to go the darker shades and make a color darker. It's easier to add white to make it lighter. So when I do that, I start, I'll mix the colors just on the fly. If I don't match exactly, I'm not concerned, because I'm going to do some blending and shading and highlights and giving some of the visual effects. So the first thing I do when I start a makeup is I take a slightly damp cloth. I make sure I've shaved, cleaned my face, just remove any of the excess oils. Sometimes if I'm really sweaty or whatever that day, I'll use some rubbing alcohol, because I'll get a little bit more of the oils off. And if you watch any of my other videos, I don't like to just keep the makeup open. I take out what I think I'm going to use. So we're going to start with the green, and today I just have, this is the makeup brush I'm using. I'll just use the back side of the brush, see if I can figure out where the camera is, and scoop out a glob, just like you're scooping out peanut butter, of the makeup, and I'll just put it on the back of my hand. transfer it off the brush. And this just gives me a palette to work on using my hand. As I've said before, the grease paint makeup is heat sensitive. On a cold day, it's stiff. On a hot day, it is soft. By putting it on your hand, it does soften it up a bit. You're adding some of your body heat to it. I'm going to add in some yellow, and I'll probably add in a little white. We'll see how this color works, and I'll just work it on the back of my hand with work the two colors together, mixing them in just to create a slightly lighter shade of green. I've found that some colors mix better than others, so it's just mixing the two colors together. And yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah, just a touch of white. Just clean off the back of the brush. Take just a little white and just add it into the mix. Now this design, if I was doing it for a cosplay, I would probably be making a full design, so I'd be covering up my ears, my neck, and down to the chest, maybe some of the hairline or whatever, depending on if I have a wig or hat or something else that'll cover that area. Since I'm just doing it at home, I don't have to be quite as detailed as I would be for convention. Let me get my mirror in front of me so I can see what I'm doing, so I don't just have to use the video display as my mirror, since I get confused with if it's forwards and backwards and whatnot. And the best way, this is going to be just a base color all over, one color more or less, so I just take the makeup on my hand and just sort of rub it in. At this point, there's no real need to be neat and tidy about anything. Just smear it everywhere. And I haven't timed this makeup design, but my estimate is it'll probably take me an hour. Depending on how much I chit-chat in the process and try to explain things, that might slow me down a bit. But anytime I do a makeup, I want to have some estimate of how long it's going to take, just so that if I have to go somewhere that I know, okay, I need to leave at noon, so this is going to take me an hour to do. I need half an hour of getting into costume and ready, so I'll start at 10 a.m. and give myself a little buffer. So it's always good to have a ballpark estimate and then plan in for it took longer than you expected, or the phone rang. I've done hundreds of face paint designs. This year alone, I've done 75 or thereabouts. So I know what I'm doing. I know the techniques. If you're doing a new face for the first time, my suggestion is to practice it before you do it. Especially if you're going to a convention or a photo shoot or whatever, just have an idea of what's involved. That if you're trying it out for the very first time, the day of, you might not find it quite as easy as you anticipate it. I know, like, some people are like, I'm gonna do this crazy tattoo design freehand on the day of, and it's like, well, practice it, because that's not the easiest thing to do. So at this point, I've got a base coat of green just about everywhere, and for some people that's good enough. But I think that makeup looks better if there's some contouring, there's some highlights and shadows into the design. Your face isn't totally just one flat color, it's got a combination of colors. So I like to build up a design a little bit more. Just clean off my fingers a bit so I don't get makeup everywhere. So if we look at the design, I've given him sort of darker around the eyes, there'll be some sunken cheeks, so like this side, can't even point to it, like this part of your head's got a little indent in it. You have bags under your eyes, you have the creases around your mouth, you have the chin. So by adding some white or yellow to lighten some areas and some blues and blacks to darken some areas, I can contour the face, make it look a little bit more monstrous. So I just start with some of the white, and hopefully this is still going live. I got a message that I got disconnected briefly, but keep going. So I'm going to add some highlights, and the places I'm going to highlight are the places that the light hits, and so it's going to be like the top of my cheeks. So I'm just going to work in a little white. And depending on how much you want to feather it out and blend it in, you can just keep on working it. Bring the edge of the nose, tip of the nose, center of the nose, and then I'll darken the edges. I'll give it a little bit more of a sharp profile. Have a brow line. So you can see already that that's adding some definition to the design. So that's adding the highlights. Now we'll go with some of the darker tones. I think I'll try a little green with a little blue. See how that goes, if that's going to be dark enough. Now I can add purple or black or brown. Alright, the areas I was talking about, I guess we could darkening. Temple area. The sides of the nose. The eyes. Cheeks. Highlights and shadows work well against each other. So if you put a highlight in one area and a shadow right next to it, that really enhances the definition of it. For some spots, the brush gives me a little bit more control over placement, and then I can still feather it out with my finger. So I haven't done a whole lot of shadows and highlights, but you can already see it's got more depth to the design. It's a little shiny right now because it's still all wet. It hasn't been powdered and set. That will take some of the color out of it, but I know some people do the highlights and shadows with like eyeshadow using powders. That's one technique that's available. I do have some of the powders I'll use at the end. I find that they help the colors pop even more because the eyeshadows come in brighter color palette than the what I can get. So if I really want a real bright blue, the eyeshadow is a good finisher step. And I'm using more or less the shape of my face as a guide. If I was, depending on the designs, you could make something look bigger or smaller by adding in some of the shadows and highlights. If you do them right. Alright, I'm pretty satisfied with this as the base coat. I said I was going to do the big tusks on the design in makeup. So at this point, I'll work on their placement. And I use Q-tips to remove the makeup where I want to put another color, just so it's That way I'm not trying to blend the colors. And these tusks are going to be tall. So there's one of them. And there's a spot for the other. Then I put some smaller teeth. And I intentionally waited till after I had done all of the highlighting and shadowing on the design to add the teeth in. This way, I'm not trying to work around the teeth. I probably could have made the mouth a little bit wider. That was my original goal, to have the mouth extended out, but I didn't. Where's the white? I always find if you're painting on teeth, especially big teeth, that it's important to still get the shadows and gradients, and sometimes like a tusk will have crack lines in it. Maybe they'll be yellowish. So that just adds a little bit more character to it, so it's just not a flat white. Sometimes I will powder before I go on to this step. Other times I'll continue. At some point I will powder and do the finer details after it's been powdered. At this point, colors really blend in, which means that if you're doing different colors, you have to be a little bit more careful that you don't pull the edge color. But I'm trying to limit how much powder I'm using in the computer room, because it gets everywhere. Even though I have things covered up, it's like dust in the air. They'll settle, get on my monitor and in my keyboard, and so that is shift the tusk over slightly. think we're good on the base layer. Clean up a bit, and then we will powder. I use just baby powder, talc based powder, and I have a large face-sized powder puff that I get loaded up with powder. And just tap it on. If I was doing this for cosplay or something, I'd do the ears, my neck, and other parts of the makeup so you don't see flesh-colored skin next to makeup skin, ruining the illusion that you're in character. It's important to get powder everywhere. Some of the creases, like under your nose, around your eyes, those are sometimes harder to get. At this point, the makeup is dry, so now the goal is to get the powder off. Normally this would be in the bathroom where it's easier to clean up on a tile or over the bathtub or shower. So now most of the powder should be off. And I'll usually use a hair dryer along with a brush to just get the extra powder off. The next layer of colors is easier to do if the makeup is not all covered with powder. The powder just gets in the way and it makes it harder for the grease paint to stick. I think I will enhance some of the shadowing. We'll start with a brown. It's not quite as drastic as going full black. There will be definitely black in the design. So I'm just putting a little makeup on the brush and lightly brushing it in, working it. blending. And at this point, the colors blend slightly differently than when the makeup was wet. Now, if I was going with a just a more human shape, I'd probably not do quite as much intense of a shadowing. But this is a pretty fierce creature. It's big and bulky, so it can take a little bit more to exaggerate, make it look a little bit more impressive. I haven't talked about the lips yet. Your lip, like the lower lip is sort of into the light, and the upper lip's got sort of that ledge to it, so it's got in more of a shadow. So you sort of create that same lip effect with making the top lip darker. And I need to extend the lip under the tusk since it's coming out of the mouth. tell it, so it gives it a bulging look, like the teeth are coming from the lip. No, I guess from the going out the lip. And I said that I want to do some shadowing on the teeth as well. Let's just go ahead to figure out where your light source would be coming from, imaginary or real. So what's could be in shadow and what's so I usually like the lights coming from in front and above, so like there'll be shadows below stuff or on the outside edges or inside edges, depending on. I was going to move on to the black, give him some bushy eyebrows. I guess I'm almost out of black. Black is a very powerful color. A little goes a long way. So you have to be careful that you don't overpower your design with black. But I do like to outline everything. Again, it helps make things pop. And I said the eyebrows. I'm not worried about doing my real eyebrows. I've given him a little bit taller. And I guess I could have gone with like a dark green. I guess it depends on what color you want his hair, and if like you're wearing a wig or something. I think in all the video games and movies they have dark black hair. Some have beards or braids or. That sort of helps the teeth stand out a bit more. You just have to be real careful that you're just using like the tip of the brush. And there's not too much paint, not a lot of pressure. You just try to get just a very fine line. Now you can give him wrinkles, you can give him moles, you can do whatever you want to make him really look fierce and mean. And I think this is pretty good. Might get just a mole or two, just to give him a little bit more character. So putting little dots on here and there. Like these would be rounded and have sort of like darker on the bottom. Or maybe they'd have a hair or two growing out of them. So there is more or less the design. I can add some lines to the teeth to give it like the little growth crack lines or so I think this is about the end. At this point I would normally powder the makeup and set it all, but I'll do that elsewhere. That way I don't get more powder all over my computer. So this has been Technicolor Mike B doing a monster makeup demonstration. This was our inspiration, sort of an orc from the World of Warcraft. This nice green guy with these big tusks. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I will get some more makeup videos in from time to time. So thanks for watching.